we
Well, yeah, that's a good
transition
idea.
to Dave
I watched
Chappelle.
it. I must say, I only watched it once. I wish I could watch it again after I saw the commentary. But yeah, I don't. Did you watch? You watched the show and the commentary, right?
Yeah, so yesterday when you told me about it, I mean, I'm not huge into Dave Chappelle, so I probably would have never watched it if there wasn't going to be all this. But I'm glad I watched it because also the Brianna
Great
Brianna's
Joy.
bad faith thing was kind of funny at times. So how seriously they
Yeah,
kind of took, how seriously it was taken, and they were like giving him tips of how he could have, been better. He should also hate on this and that. I'm like, we do realize that it is a comedy show at the end, though. They're like, if only he had sourced better. I'm exaggerating a bit. As per
definitely.
usual. As per usual, I'm exaggerating a bit, but
No, yeah,
yeah.
that's the thing. I don't know what I don't. I feel like the commentary surrounding the thing was so out of proportion with the thing. Like, I don't know. It's just I for 2 days I saw Analysis News had Ben Burgess on. Then Joe Pascal and Ben Burgess and somebody else were on a show panel
Yeah.
together. And then Brianna Greyjoy did a whole 1 hour 45 minutes thing with it with the some professor doctor
With a
guy
doctor.
and yeah, and we're gonna talk about that. It's okay. Don't get angry yet. Okay, but yeah, and the other person who was, I believe, who has a podcast and all that.
Yeah,
So
Trevor.
it's
I
just it
like the name.
felt like Jesus Christ, calm
Yeah.
the fuck down. It's a stand-up comedy. It's not like a new
Yeah.
policy. And it's so funny that when you talk about AOC and stuff, they say you're just TMZ or what. This is like he's a
Mm.
comedian. He just wanted. I don't know. I felt the commentary was so out of proportion, and I felt the people who were saying the right things were so timid. They're so
Mm.
like Ben Burgess, who I sometimes agree, sometimes I don't agree with, but very intelligent man. I think teaches philosophy at university. So, whatever. I don't, like. My hands are up, basically. But he was so timid, like in his
I
defense
didn't
of
see that
like
one.
he comes on the Joe Pascal thing, and he's on Analysis News with Paul JSK, or or the person who has a podcast who was on Brianna
Trevor,
Greyjoy,
yeah.
Bad Face, Trevor. Uh, Forget the family. He was like they're so timid in their defense of like you shouldn't be. You should just tell these people to like
And
it's jokes. Just grow
and
up.
exactly to your defense that you saw this for 2 days, you're like, what is going on? That's exactly what Brianna said. She said when she went and watched it, she was expecting it to be like, oh my god and stuff, and she said because the doctor leaves halfway through, or like not halfway through, towards like the last half an hour,
Yes,
and
very
then
last
Brianna
half.
and Trevor have a much better, have a
Better
more honest
discussion, in my view.
conversation. They're like,
Yes,
okay, now that this
I,
guy's
I am.
gone,
I
we
am
both
interested
loved
to
it,
know.
right?
I really am interested to know what is the thesis of that doctor guy because it didn't seem to add any substance to the
I
conversation
mean, I
really,
couldn't
except to
listen to him
say,
too much. He
"Oh,
studies
yeah, fair enough."
LGBTQ and things like that, and he was a
Sure, but
journalist
in what
also.
way?
He's like a journalist
Sure, but that's
slash this.
academic
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah. No, no,
But
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
no, no, I just because he didn't add any substance to the conversation or anything. It's just same bullshit as usual. This comedian should make these jokes because this community is under threat, and yeah, I don't know. It's just
And
Ben Burgess actually, I think, again, in a very much nicer fashion than I can, and with much more evidence than I can, puts it like it's not the people like me. People, I think people mix up, um, like they mix up what is the cause and what is the effect. Media and art is a reflection of society. Like as Brianna Joy, I think, mentions in her podcast that like most Americans are probably share than Dave Chappelle's views or are in a are actually more right wing or have more problematic views, whatever wing that is, right? So this is a reflection of society. It's not he's not a driving force. It's not like he issued an edict. He told some jokes. And by the way, I mean he's very like there are actual like I mean if you look at this history of a stand-up comedy, there is a lot of racism and sexism and like I mean, blackface, minstrel
Yeah.
shows, all that. So like this idea that comedy, I think, has to be a engine for like social good. I think maybe it started
And
with like 70s and like this new wave of great comedians that were critical of the system. But
which is
and by the
good.
way, I think Dave Chappelle, I think, is a critical comedian.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
put him in that tradition. I'm just saying these people, though, they don't seem to like understand that comedy or music or like you like don't, as he says it in his stand-up. I think at some point he doesn't follow you to your car to
Hmm.
perform his
And
stand-up. You either buy the ticket or you go, or just
man,
don't.
I mean, listen to this, and I mean, after I'll say a few bad things about Dave Chappelle, maybe because I mean, I don't even
Some
care that much
critical
about
thing.
him and stuff. Yeah, but this is just how much people misunderstood the whole thing. This Brianna said this in the beginning. He says, "Oh, I'm rich and all this," and then he quickly connects that to, "I can just imagine how bad COVID is for people who aren't rich like me." Apparently, people did not understand this joke and misinterpreted as him just bragging that he's rich. So I mean, if there's like that low level of
It
understanding,
wasn't really a joke. It
it
was more
wasn't
like
just,
a, yeah,
yeah, I feel you guys. And you
like
know the doctor
sympathy.
guy on Brianna, he didn't watch the special. He watched
You're
clips. No,
kidding.
he mentions in the very beginning and go the first
I
comment on Bad
forgot
Faith.
that.
Someone says, as soon as this guy
How are
mentioned that
you
he has
qualified to comment
not only
at
comment,
all?
like criticize it
Just
and critique.
criticize in such a strong manner. And
Yeah.
by the way, again, I don't like genuine, like I have, again, like Ben Burgess. Again, I said somebody I disagree with a lot, but I can understand he's much more accomplished and he has much more credentials than I have. But some doctors, I'm not quite so respectful.
And we'll get to him being a doctor.
Look, yeah, I
But
know you're very
and
angry. But
you know there are some other things that he said that I guess people didn't pick on it because I mean he makes
he
a
said a lot
joke
of
about
everything
pedophilia
is
too. Like he says some crazy thing about pedophilia in the beginning. He completely makes light of it, but you know, of course, the stand-up
about
comedian.
a
If
priest, and
yeah,
nobody believes he was abused as a child and gave a yeah, whatever. It's just ridiculous, the idea that like, yeah, anyways, like the jokes are actually true stories, or some of them are, as he
yeah.
at the end, but yeah, and it's just people, yeah, I mean, again, like if they pointed out to a couple of specific things he says, not taken out of
Yeah.
context, in which some people actually took some of his words out of context, in my view. For example, when he says my people, he means comedians, clearly at the, I think, end-ish of the thing. And then some people say he's pitting blacks against other groups or whatever. So yeah, I can't, if somebody shows me example of a, like, I really don't
I mean,
see like what's the so fucking big deal.
and for a second, I'm gonna just be nice to like people criticize him and kind of say what I understand. Although that's a big caveat because let's not forget this is stand-up comedy. But before that, a couple of comments. Before we missed them, Carib Moth believes that you're in my basement. Your basement looks better than my room, so I don't know too much about that. Free Sam.
What?
There are comments going around
Please,
saying free Sam.
why? I mean,
Uh, okay, hashtag
I
free
haven't.
Sam. Bill Bradley.
Why?
I watched Chappelle. I had to stop watching Bad Fate for that very reason. They're so wrapped up in analysis, they're listening not to jokes. I mean, I think Brianna realized
Is
that at
much
times.
better.
Yeah, but the doctor guy was just so
Terrible.
serious. But even Trevor, he was like, "Oh, I wished he would have also punched down on X and Y and
Yeah,
Z." I'm
yeah,
like, I wish too he kind
yeah.
of made other jokes because fine,
I
let's
wish he had
get to
four
it.
hours. No, I really wish he had 4 hours and he made
Yeah,
fun of every ethnicity around the world and
yeah,
every different sexual orientation. It's not possible. It's like within it.
hundred
But I would say
percent. But yo,
I
some good
always,
comments
whenever
here.
I
We'll
don't,
we'll go
and by
back
the
to
way, I
them.
don't get it. Like whenever a comedian mentions even Iranians or Iranians mentioned in a movie in a mockingly or positive fashion,
Yeah,
like everybody's so glad. And I don't get this whole like, it's
yeah.
just joking around.
And I mean
I mean,
he does,
yeah.
but And but he does have this serious part. I guess he's trying to say that Dave Chappelle. I guess the most serious thing, one of the serious things, he's trying to say is that, he gets into the argument with the white lady, and then she says she's gonna call the cops, and he uses that to explain, like, you see, like, I'm actually the one here who's like in a more precarious position than you, right? Like, you might be trans, but if the police comes, and I guess he was trying to point out that maybe yeah, go ahead.
I think he before that or just right after that he brought up the example true case of the black man who becomes free and then owns the slaves, right? So I think what he was saying is that just because somebody's exploited or just somebody's been in a position of weakness, uh, which many minorities have been, it doesn't mean as soon as they won't use whatever leverage they have in the most immoral fashion you can imagine. And it's not like gay people or black people or trans people or whoever is above it. So I think he was making that point with the black man who becomes a slave owner, and with that case they both reflect the same thing, that somebody who is again like a squid game,
Mm-hmm.
like this idea that just you think because you're just weak and like when on the way to the top you'll commit the same crimes, you'll it's the people on the top are not so different from the people on the bottom,
Mm.
except I mean the only difference is the position really. So
See, yeah,
I would justify it that way, but maybe I'm being too
yeah,
kind, I
no,
don't
no,
know.
no, that's fine. But how about this? This is my biggest thing. Does he seem a bit too obsessed though, right, with this whole topic? And did he seem like he was a bit like vengeful, or there was a bit of too much of an agenda behind his show, and he focused like, it just gave the impression that he focused more on this issue that he kind of has, and he thinks he's being misrepresented, or he thinks the way LGBTQ or trans and issues are represented, maybe it's unfair. What did he seem too obsessed with this for, like, his show, and yeah, not focusing enough on maybe different kind of jokes?
I would say in
I
my
got that
view
impression.
just stylistically, in my view, it was more closer to George Carlin than I used to remember Dave Chappelle, which gives George Carlin, you do a righteous laughter, it's just like he's like, "Argh," and it's more like it's almost like a preacher pretty much thing, but in a much better, like a good preacher. Imagine if there was a good, but George Carlin was very anti-religion in his
Mm-hmm.
stand-up and all that. So I would say, yeah, it's not as joke heavy maybe as some of his other works or at some. I mean, you haven't seen his other stand-up, so he
I was
always
never
had his
obsessed. No,
own
I've seen.
storytelling.
Yeah, I've seen
I've seen his sketches, but I have you seen his stand-ups?
maybe once or something, but yeah, I don't really remember them that well.
Okay,
So
because
fair
he's
enough.
always been a storyteller,
Mm-hmm.
telling kind of like, and I would say I think the reason why he's so focused on this topic is because he's been, because of his latest specials on Netflix have been all criticized for this issue to a huge extent, and I think maybe comments he made somewhere else as well. So I think maybe that's the. I mean, it seems like a fair enough reason to focus on that. Although I would say I just wish he did more stand up in general. I would agree that maybe if there were other topics, I would have loved it a bit more. But he's always been a bit like I believe the last stand up I saw him, in my view, he did one of his best bits, which was about Jussie Smollett. You know who that is? The actor that pretended he was attacked
Ah,
by
yes,
Trump
yes,
supporters.
yes, of course.
Oh
It was
my
African
god!
American, right? Or
Yeah,
no? Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
yes, yes.
yeah.
Yeah, he said they put a rope noose around my head, and then they had a MAGA hat, and it was like
Jeez.
I don't know 2 in the morning in the court,
Yeah.
and there were cameras showing nobody was. It was just so, and I think his bit about that. If you, I think that's a 15-minute or 20-minute bit, So he's always been,
Hmm.
I think, in a more rambling style. But yeah, I would say, yeah, I do accept that. I think he's very like the whole show was pretty much focused on this issue, really. I think.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, that's the only thing I would
Fair
kind of
enough.
give
Yeah.
it. I would kind of give, and then even Trevor and Brianna, who after once the doctor left, and someone left a hilarious comment about the doctor, which we will get to. But
Okay, yeah.
after he left and they started having a more sensible conversation and talked
Nuance.
about about punching down and all that. I mean, like I told you, like comedians punch down on crazy. I don't know if anybody in the comment sections here has been to stand-up comedy shows, small ones in New York. But correct me if I'm not wrong. Do they not always just make fun of homeless people? I mean, that's the impression that I got. So, I mean, that's what stand-up comedy is kind of about to a large extent. I know it's not all that, but kind of make fun
No, I
of
wouldn't say
people.
it's all. I don't. I would say it's about making fun. Yeah, exactly. Like I never saw homeless people being made fun of in the UK, but or anywhere in Dubai or Iran, or anywhere. Like I've seen people, specific individuals, officials, or somebody in the audience. Oh, you're fat, or you're ugly, or your eyes are blue, or your hair is blue, or your clothing. Your clothing.
Mm.
I've been made fun of for my clothing quite a few times, but yeah. So I and just yeah, and nobody takes it to heart. I hope.
Yeah, and it doesn't mean
I
that you can
yeah.
go out and make any joke. Also, I mean, I'm
Sure,
guessing
sure, of course.
there is like a barrier,
But
but
if somebody
there's
does
a
make a joke that you think is racist or sexist, really racist or sexist, not like making fun of sexism, like let's say Ali G or Dave Chappelle. If it's not like making fun of it, it's actually is that. Just walk away. Just don't
yeah.
pay attention to it.
And can you
And I
expand
would
that
say,
a bit?
yeah, yeah, yeah. I was gonna say. I mean, I do like. I have my position. I do respect my own position, but I do see that. I remember, especially from university and high school years, that people used to, for example, watch Ali G and or other. I mean, Ali G is just such a example that comes to mind. And I remember, like, I realized they weren't laughing at what I was laughing. They were laughing with Ali G rather than at Ali G. And that was not the point. Ali G is the clown
Is a
that
clown, yeah.
brings out the clown in others, that is, that highlights the clownness in others and in his own attitudes, right? And I saw, and then I realized like a lot of people were not laughing for the same reasons as I was. So there is that comedy could be misinterpreted or
Yeah.
interpreted in different ways. Who knows? My interpretation is right.
No, 100%. So, okay. I don't know if you have much else to say about Dave Chappelle. Let me
Not really.
tell you about
Should
my
we check
little
him
pet
out?
V.
Oh yeah, tell us about that. That
So
sounds
even Bill
fun.
Bradley wrote this. I don't call anyone not an MD doctor. I don't care that you went to school for 12 years. So the guest that Brianna has, he has a PhD, which I know technically is supposed to be called a doctorate, and I hope to start my PhD in a few years. So I don't hate on PhDs. I think it's a great thing. But she keeps on referring to this guy,
Social
doctor.
social studies or humanities
Yeah,
PhD specifically. We are talking not
yeah.
like I said. Yeah.
Not the
But
natural sciences. But
yeah,
and this guy,
it's
she
so
just
weird.
refers to this guy doctor, doctor, doctor. And my only guess is that he told her to refer to him doctor because he's not the first person with a PhD that's been on her show. And you gave the example of Dr. Cornel West, and that's kind of like his brand being called that way. But I haven't heard do it
Yeah,
to
and
anybody else.
he's like 600
It's
years old. So
yeah,
yeah,
and
it's
I
like
mean,
you
I
should
just find
respect.
it to be extremely like confusing to the
Annoying. It was
masses,
so
to the
annoying.
because it gets. I was at first, I honestly thought this guy's a
I
medical doctor. I
oh,
was like, is it, why do they have a
that's a
medical
good
doctor
point.
talking about Dave Chappelle? And here's my example of why it's confusing to the masses. I've told you this before. Whoopi Goldberg. Did I say her name right? Whoopi
Yeah,
Goldberg.
Whoopi
Yeah.
Goldberg. Yeah.
Yeah, she thought she thought that Joe Biden's wife was a medical doctor. So there's like this clip on the View. She says, "Yeah, she should be the general surgeon of
Chief
of
surgeon.
the chief surgeon." And someone corrects her. It's like, "Wait, I think she has a PhD in education."
In
And it's just,
education.
it's so funny, but you can't blame it. It becomes
No, I would.
it's
Okay,
misleading.
one
We should just save doctor for
good point.
medical
Good point.
doctors. And sorry, last comment. And it doesn't mean that you're smarter, that you've studied more and you become medical doctor. They're just totally different things. And they won that war. They got the doctor word. We can go call ourselves PhD, or if you're actually a professor, then someone can call you a professor. That's not very confusing,
Or by
although
your
it's
name.
or by or by
Yeah,
doctor,
like
doctor.
Yeah, to be honest, when I was in university, none of the professors, and there
No,
were
that's
some of
not a
them were
thing.
famous, top people.
Yeah,
Like they never said call us the doctor or professor. They were
yeah,
like, yeah, call us, hello, John, Kish. I
yeah.
had a Dutch teacher, but yeah, I would. There are a couple of things. Linguistically, I do want to defend the fact that originally physician was what medical doctor, and doctor was actually belonged to philosophy people and like social studies, but they stole it from us.
Listen,
So
you lost that.
but
You lost that war.
but
You
you
lost
lost,
that.
yeah, you lost it. I do accept that, and I do think for confusions,
Yeah.
there is a great BBC radio show. What's the name? The one that Benedict Cumberbatch before he became famous. He he and Roger Alam is in it. Roger Alam is like he's got the best voice ever in the world. He's a great British actor, and they play on this whole confusion bit. It's quite funny, but yeah, I mean I agree with you pretty much. Yeah, like yeah, leave the doctor to medical
Yeah.
professions at this point. They won the fucking war, so let's call
I,
ourselves I don't know PhDs or whatever.
yeah. I mean,
If we get a PhD, neither of us has gotten
it
a
is.
PhD.
No, no. I'm just saying.
But
I'm not a
I would
PhD
say
hater. That's the only reason I
yeah, yeah.
said that.
Originally, I told you it's not misleading in this case because it's about
Yeah.
a specific issue, so you understand this guy has like. But then, because it's about LGBT community, actually, it could be
Oh, in that.
misunderstood as a yeah physician type of thing. So yeah, you are right. It was completely misleading. It gave the aura as if he has some more expertise.
Yeah.
Maybe they never even
No,
discussed his research,
he had
do they?
specific expertise. No, no, he had actually very specific expertise. I
What
believe
was
he's
it?
an
I don't remember.
LGBTQ social scientist. Like that is his area.
What
He's
was
a
the what was his like? Did he discuss his
yeah.
book or anything?
It's written in the hold on. It's written in the description bio of the podcast. In the description, they say, Dr. Stephen Trasher, the inaugural Daniel Babbitt Chair of Social Justice in Reporting, with an emphasis on issues relevant
Jesus.
to the LGBTQ community, and an assistant professor of journalism. So I guess he's an assistant professor. I mean, there's nothing wrong with
Nothing
these
to
things.
do.
But there's nothing wrong
Nothing to
with
do.
these things. It's just, and you
Well,
are a
I don't know though.
doctor.
No, no,
You
no.
are a
But if he
doctor.
had
It's
a
just misleading.
yeah, yeah, sure. But I would say a sociologist or anthropologist or somebody like that would be much better poised to talk about this topic than some
But
random journalism. I don't see how
no,
journalism
I mean,
qualifies to.
he works on those issues. So I mean, and maybe the bio's not written properly. So I'll give him
Okay,
the
fair enough,
benefit
fair
of
enough.
the
Yeah, yeah.
doubt
And yeah,
there.
I talk about Squid Game, and I don't have any qualification. So yeah, I take that back. That was very elitist of me.
Yeah, that's fine. But let me see
Did the
any other
comment like the
comments. I'm
viewers
just
rebel? What was the free Sam thing? Why is my background
because
in
no,
prison?
because you told everybody you're being kept in my basement.
Oh, all right, yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
Not your basement, but I'm being kept hostage. Yes.
And yeah, people asking if there was firing or anything like that. I don't think so.
Firing?
Or like, did anything happen at Netflix over the show? Apparently,
Oh,
apparently they did try to do a protest, and that employee got.
there was. It's not. I'm not again clear about this. There are different stories going around, but apparently there was somebody who tried. Like again, it's not clear. I forget. After two tweets. Anyway, Netflix says she was fired or he was fired. I forget. Because they tried to break into a director's meeting,
Mm,
but some other people say that maybe like it was trying to get rid of somebody who they disagreed with. And I remember Kyle Kalinske did a video on it, and he said, like, I wouldn't have fired him or her. I don't know the correct pronoun.
I see.
And it was, yeah, I don't know. But I would personally, I was more on the side of Netflix. I don't know what these. I mean, it seems like he or she was very young, and I do see that in young people a lot. That they seem to like think workplace is like it's like a political arena or something. Just shut the fuck up and do your work. Just I don't understand this like
More or
coming to
less.
director meetings and I mean ask for better pay, ask for better equal workplace, but just
Yeah.
I don't understand this like if federal government break into the White House like demanding Yemenis to be I don't get just do your job like their process. I mean it
Yeah.
would be good, but yeah. It's just I mean I'm surprised by the level of surprise for getting fired. You know, like
Yeah.
if I went to my director when I was working, I'm between jobs right now. So you know, if I went to my manager's office without notice, I would probably get fired.
Yeah. It
Much
better
less
be
my
something
general director.
serious and worth it. You
Yeah,
better be justified. But Sam, what do you make of
yeah.
this comment on the screen right now? Look at your phone; it
I
should
can't.
be there too.
Oh,
Um,
oh, sorry. I
so he
was
says,
looking at my.
Astro Gypsy says,
I
"Look
am
at Bill
very
Hicks."
technologically.
No, we need to figure this out. I
Wait,
think when a comic
what?
reaches that level of
Bill Hicks.
success, they tend to drop their concern for a large audience in favor of their own concentrated interest. I think there's something in there
Bill.
with Dave Chappelle, though, there. And
Fair.
the
I
obsession
do.
with that a bit.
I okay. The only thing in the commentary that I saw that was kind of a critical outlook, but I thought was interesting was that, well, when you're Dave Chappelle, obviously he's talking about trans, gay, and black people who are well off because that's he's been
Mm-hmm.
surrounded by those people for a long time. But I don't think he's completely I don't know. I don't feel like he's completely been separated. I think
Yeah.
that actually Eddie Izzard, do you know him? He's greatest stand-up comedian.
No,
My
no.
favorite when I was a kid. I remember I showed a bit of him to you, and you were like, "No, thank you." But when we were in high school. But yeah, Eddie Izzard is like somebody who I feel that happened to. I don't know, Dave. I understand. It feels. I mean, this show, as you said, I think that's very fair. This show is so focused on one topic. I don't know, but I would say Bill Hicks. Fucking, do you know Bill Hicks? Oh,
Maybe you
one of the
heard, but
greatest stand-up
I think I
comedians
know
ever.
who
He
it is.
died. He died before we were born, so pretty much, yeah,
I
we
think.
did. But he famous for smoking and
Hmm.
a
Yeah, I
very
think I know who
irreverent
that is.
joke. He's great. He's fucking awesome. Well, he's been like so many people copied him that you might not find him as funny now, but yeah. Anyways,
Nice, and I see more in the comment section. People, the Jill Biden. Apparently, I beat some people to the Jill Biden
Doctor
joke.
Jill Biden. Sorry, Doctor Jill. Doctor
And
Jill Biden.
yeah, and during like the primaries and stuff, they would ask her about her opinion on healthcare and all that, with the assumption that there's like a medical doctor giving her
I'm
opinion.
sorry, but if you're a journalist, come on, do some homework. Like it's not like I understand Whoopi Goldberg. She just
Yeah,
once shows up like drunk in
yeah.
the View, once in a while. But if you're a journalist asking her, like imagine ask her about education. Come on, like.
But
All right,
yeah, I
shall
mean,
we?
I haven't seen. Sorry, last point on this. Carter says that he's seen some U.S. professors being asked to call doctor. I have also, just like Sam saying, I mean, I didn't go to university in the States.
Never, yeah.
I was in Canada, but I didn't.
Yeah, I've never seen anybody. They always said call us by first name, maybe when we said like Mr. Blah or whatever.